All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 41 of the Yellow Card Podcast, brought to you by Couch Guy Sports Network. Check out couchguysports.com for all your weekly content on sports, entertainment, you name it, you have it. We're also brought to you by Exogun. You guys, just a quick question. You guys ever just do a workout, need a massage right after it because you are just so tensed up?
Absolutely.
Every time.
So with Exogun, you can get the massage without leaving the house. Don't let pain and soreness slow you down. Exogun revives muscles, boosts circulation, releases energy, so you can recover faster and lift better. Take it to wherever you need it, work, the gym, the trail, and put the power of percussion massage treatment in your hands. It's portable, adjustable, powerful, and Exogun is trusted by the pros to deliver the ultimate in recovery. Like we said before, you can use it even for percussion therapy. What is percussion therapy? It is a therapy that boosts muscles function and recovers by penetrating deep into the muscle tissue with a series of rapid, concentrated, pulsating strokes, gaining back control of your body and achieving long-term pain relief with Exogun. You can use the code CGS10 to get 10% off at the checkout. If you're buying an Exogun, it comes with a charger, a carrying case. The boys take care of you. We're going to take care of you too. With the code CGS10, get 10% off at the checkout. This episode is brought to you with your host, Diego Galvis, Chris Jones, Andrew Fasciano, and you. If you're watching this via YouTube, you might realize we have a fourth person. If you're listening, you're going to hear the voice of a fourth person. And I can't do the introduction justice. So I'm going to let her introduce herself. Her name is Arielle Castillo. You might know her from her fantastic tweets that are just so entertaining in themselves. And the stories all along are just hilarious as hell. Arielle, go right ahead, please, and introduce yourself, because I can't do the introduction justice. I would so lowball it. It's unfair.
Oh no, that's very kind. Being introduced by my tweets is like one of those horrifying things where I'm like, oh no, someone actually reads them. My name is Arielle Castillo, and I've worked in the American soccer industry, football industry for about, several years now. I'm currently at Manchester City Football Club, running their US digital and social strategy. And before that, I worked at Major League Soccer, MLS. Just MLS, at the league office. And before that, I was a football reporter for a cable network based in Miami. So very happy to be here this morning.
Well, we're very happy to have you, and thank you for joining us. Thank you for taking time off your business schedule to join us. We're super excited to have you on. And listen, the main thing that we need to talk about today is the Euros 2020. These brackets came out, and they just look outrageously good. I mean, every single team that's in this bracket just looks very powerful in itself. Chris, I'm gonna ask you to basically break it down. Just give us the teams going against each other, and what we're gonna do is just get into a little bit of prediction and kind of talk about the teams just real quick, so that our listeners have a sense of what we're up against in this Euro 2020 bracket. So, Chris, go right ahead, sir.
Yeah, no, I mean, so we got a jam-packed schedule the next couple days. So for starters, we'll start at the top of the bracket. We have Belgium playing Portugal in Seville. We have Italy and Austria playing in London. We have France and Switzerland playing in Bucharest. Croatia and Spain playing in Copenhagen. Sweden and Ukraine playing in Glasgow, England and Germany in London, the Netherlands and the Czech Republic in Budapest, and Wales and Denmark in Amsterdam.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So, Andrew and Arielle, based on these brackets, what are the 4 games that you're most looking forward for?
Ooh, okay. Let's see. I think, to be honest, I'm going to start with the first game of the round of 16, Wales and Denmark. Just in terms of, if you like underdog storylines, I feel like this game is perfect for that sort of thing. Wales, I think, has shown over not just this tournament, but the past Euros as well, that they can step up to the spotlight and perform really well at these big tournaments. And then, of course, with Denmark, what happened with Christian Eriksen and then their response in their final group stage game against Russia was incredibly moving. I thought just the emotion in that game from the players and the fans was incredible to watch. So I think a lot of neutral fans are also pulling for them at this point in the tournament. So whichever team wins, I would be happy with. I think they're both really nice stories, but I'm excited to watch that game unfold. Belgium and Portugal also is a really interesting one, in my opinion. I think Portugal is sort of an interesting team because with Ronaldo, they obviously have the ability to beat any team in the world on any given day. But I also think you could say that they maybe didn't quite play their best against France and Germany in the group stage. So it's sort of a question of whether or not they can get things clicking against a team that's probably one of the biggest favorites in the whole tournament. I'd also say England and Germany would be one that is very intriguing to me. With England coming in with a lot of hype, I think it's fair to say that they kind of were a little bit underwhelming in the group stage in terms of creating chances and putting together offensive moves. The game's at Wembley, so they'll have the home advantage. Germany is a little bit more of a pragmatic team, I feel like, where they might not be quite as flashy going forward all the time, but they're going to be solid and give you a tough game no matter what. So I think that could be a game that could go either way for sure. And then the last one, I think I would say the Netherlands and the Czech Republic, which is on Sunday. The Netherlands was one of the teams that I liked before the tournament. I like how much young talent they have in defense, midfield, and attack. But I think they were, on paper at least, by far the best team in their group. So this is sort of, in my opinion, the first real test for them in this tournament. So I think it's going to be interesting to see how they do against a Czech Republic team that was pretty good in the group stage, I thought, and impressed against some big teams. So we'll have to see how that one plays out as well. But yeah, those are the 4 games that I'm looking forward to.
Awesome. What about you, Arielle?
Yeah, I'll hop in. Well, I've been really excited watching Italy just this whole tournament. I think they're so fun. This new crop of players they have is just so exciting in so many ways. So I will be watching that today at 3 p.m. I fully expect them to beat Austria. I'm sorry for anyone watching from Austria, but I frankly think that Italy is one of the teams to beat through this whole tournament, depending on the rest of the draws. So I'll watch any game that they play in because they have a lot of sauce. And but I'm really excited for Belgium versus Portugal tomorrow for the same reasons that Andrew said. I think Portugal has a lot of potential, but it may not have really been cooking that last game, particularly like in the midfield and defense, which we all saw that. But I think the combination of Kevin De Bruyne and Romelu Lukaku is just really lethal, and I'm a stan for both of them. And so I think Belgium could be a dark horse. I mean, obviously I'm biased with Kevin, but I just think he's like, probably the best footballer in the world. So those are the 2 from this weekend. And then looking forward to Monday and Tuesday. I mean, obviously everyone's going to be watching England versus Germany. I think Croatia versus Spain is a really interesting matchup just because I think both teams have been a bit underrated just in this tournament. I mean, Croatia is kind of going through a little bit of a personnel change, but Luka Modric is still Luka Modric. As well, I think this new generation of players for Spain is really interesting. And I'm not just saying that because they have Ferran Torres and Emerick Laporte. But their last game was incredible. So I think that's sort of they could just both be dark horses in this competition, which is a weird thing to say about Spain because you usually expect them to come through and steamroll everybody. But with sort of the changing of the guards there, they haven't had as much hype. So, yeah.
No, I definitely agree with you there. I think, I think with the Spain aspect of things, it's weird to see Spain not be there with Sergio Ramos. Like the first thing that you think of Spain is Sergio Ramos, right? I mean, previously was Iker Casillas, and now it's Sergio Ramos, and he not being there, it's different. Definitely agree with you there. I actually low key, I'm eyeballing this Sweden versus Ukraine game. I just find it to be a very interesting game because it's a very defensive Sweden side versus a very offensively driven Ukrainian side. I mean, Yarmolenko has started to show signs of his top performances before. Again, especially in this tournament, you got a defense led by Victor Lindelof, who's physical and it's quick, and everyone else in his defense is also catching on to that. But then you also got a midfield that is creative within Sweden and a midfield that is defensive in Ukraine. So kind of interested to see what that chemistry would clash like, and see what that game brings on. I feel like it's one of those games that could be a 1-1 throughout all 90 minutes and go to penalties, or it could easily just be a blowout by either side, depending on how that chemistry develops. And I'm also interested in that Italy versus Austria game. I agree with much of what you said. I'm a big Gianluigi Donnarumma fan, just personally. I think he's been real sharp, very good. I agree with what Chris has said before. Could easily be one of the top keepers in the world to come.
Is a top keeper in the world right now. Could be the top by this time next year at PSG.
I would almost agree with that. I mean, you can't take away from Keylor Navas at PSG right now. You
easily. I easily can, because Gianluigi Donnarumma is going there and he's going to win the starting job easily, hands down.
Love
top
the
five
confidence.
goalies, top 5 goalies in the world right now. It goes Donnarumma, then you go Manuel Neuer. You got to give Ederson some credit because he's been fantastic and literally helping them win 3 out of their last 4 Premier League titles. Alisson Becker, he had his blunders, but he's still one of the best goalies in the world. And then I'm drawing a blank on the last one. I can't think of him right now.
John Black.
Yep, that's the one. Wow.
I was gonna say John Black has got to be in the top 5. There's no reason.
It's too early. I can't think properly. I think real quick, one matchup that nobody's really talking about, and I think it needs to be highlighted more, is France and Switzerland. France did not look good in the group stage, in the group of death. They played Germany wicked tight. They barely squeaked out against them. They tied with Hungary, and they tied with Portugal. They're playing a very defensive-minded Switzerland team who has Jan Sommer, who's also a very good goaltender, and can keep them easily in this game. So if France isn't going to get the same that we've Chris. If France isn't going to get the same type of play from Antoine Griezmann and Kylian Mbappe like we saw in the World Cup, they're not going far in this tournament.
I think it's a fair take, but I think you also got to take it with a grain of salt too, right? Because you got a German team that's also heavily stacked. You got a Portugal team that, I mean, that midfield game that they have is unbelievable. You match Portugal against like Brazil or something like that in South America, and Portugal is more than likely to win that game. Then you also have Hungary too, which Hungary, while not in the stages of this bracket right now, Hungary themselves just put up a phenomenal performance. They were a pest to everyone in that group, and I was all in for it. So I don't know if you guys would feel but it was Hungary.
I just think if you're France and you're supposed to be the favorite and you're supposed to be one of the best teams in this tournament, obviously with a tough group that you get to draw in, obviously you would expect them to win at least 2 of those games, and they didn't. So to me, it's a little bit of a disappointment in my eyes, looking at France football, especially with the world talent you have on that squad. But everybody's going to watch England, Germany. It's just for England fans, it's either coming home or it's not. It's just plain and simple. Gareth Southgate needs to make the transitions that he hasn't made in the first 3 games of the group stage for this team. They need to get consistent, and they need to be a lot better informed than they've been as of late. And then real quick for Belgium and Portugal, and then I'll just stop talking about everything. Bruno Fernandes has been an absolute no-show in the Euro so far, and they desperately need him in a game like this. But for Belgium at the same time, I think my only issue with them still is that the 3-back formation that they have, the 3 center backs in the back, and I think Portugal can easily exploit that with their formation.
On the other hand, when you look at Portugal's defensive performance over the last couple games, you could say the same thing. So it's going to be interesting to see how that balances out.
I was waiting to hear Arielle just bounce back. I was like, oh, Chris.
I'm extremely biased with Portugal because I'm a huge fan of Ruben Diaz in particular and Bernardo Silva. And but yeah, I think with both sides, you could say that there are probably things that could be changed about the defensive formation. So I that's why I'm really excited about this matchup, because I wouldn't be able to give you a prediction for it really.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I think for England, it's been very interesting. Just last game, for example, Bukayo Saka was finally put in, and he delivered a performance in a half, I would almost say, because he basically dominated the offensive attack for England. He came in, did his thing, and delivered more than what was asked out of him. But it's important to know that like people like Jude Bellingham and Jadon Sancho haven't really had much of an opportunity to display themselves. It's just for me, it's impressive considering just how young these two certain individuals are, and how much of a contribution they can really give here to England to put them over the edge against a team like Germany. And it's just a shame that Gareth Southgate just has these two guys sitting on the bench just doing absolutely nothing.
I'm surprised we haven't seen Sancho at all in the tournament, given his club form.
Yeah.
So I would love to see him in this next game. Just yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Well, one thing I was reading about on the internet is that people are starting to low-key call this the game for Jadon Sancho. Basically, whoever wins gets Jadon Sancho's passport between England and Germany.
I don't know that I'd be very surprised if he kind of did his one-time transfer, but that's funny to think about.
That is really funny. Yeah.
I think once you get called up for England, you don't tend to switch, but
Exactly.
I think at the same time though, if you're not going to be able to get the chance to perform for England, what's the point of doing it?
Oh, he'll just perform for the US.
He doesn't have ties here, Diego. It doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
He can just say he's my cousin or something. I don't know.
We'll find a random relative.
Yeah, exactly.
I agree. I think there are a lot of offensive players to watch for England, but I also think this game against Germany could be a huge chance for my guy Jordan Pickford to make a statement. I think although
he's protected by John Stones and or Kyle
true,
Walker.
Yes.
Yeah,
John
exactly.
Stones is also a very good friend of mine with his Everton background. But I think I've been saying it for a while that Pickford was really good in the second half of the season. I think he still has a lot of doubters because Everton weren't very good in the second half of the season. So maybe his play hasn't really gotten the chance to shine. So I think, at a tournament like this where everyone is watching a marquee matchup between England and Germany, two of the biggest footballing countries in the world, I think if he comes out and puts up a really big performance, I think that will go a long ways towards him getting some of the credit that I think he hasn't been getting that he deserves based on his play over the last 6 months or so.
No, I agree. I mean, all you have to do is look back at the last World Cup, where he really, I thought he really impressed. So he's still there. And I think he really shines in cup tournaments and at the national team level. So I agree with you completely. I'm a fan.
He performs better with talent in front of him. And obviously with guys like John Stones and Kyle Walker, it's much more talent than he has at Everton, unfortunately. But then at the same time, he's bringing back the Everton ties because he has the wasted space Harry Maguire that's standing right there as well.
Chris woke up this morning and chose White House.
Yeah, I'm gonna take myself out of this part of the conversation.
Yeah, I'm almost like, Chris, you're on your own podcast. I don't know who invited you now.
It's fine.
Chris needs a coffee because it is the morning.
Yeah, he needs like a Starbucks with like the triple shot in top of it.
I'll start my own podcast, unsanctioned. Nobody holding me back.
I mean, for takes like that, might as well just never mind. I'll reserve.
Oh, I don't want to hear it. You were criticizing Harry Maguire since day one. I don't want to hear it.
Yeah, I still criticize him, but to say that he's a waste of space in that defense, I'm not sure that I would go that far.
I don't know, man.
I don't know if I would go that far.
I don't know, man. I don't know.
Let's get into real quick some surprises we could see here in this bracket. So I'm gonna pick on Andrew first, Arielle, and then Chris after that. How's that?
Sounds good, yeah.
All right. So
pick on the baby face. Pick on the baby face.
We
I
all
think
have baby faces, dude.
Speak for yourself, dude.
I think I've two in mind off the top of my head. The first one, I think Spain and Switzerland could be, I think, a closer game than I would have anticipated at the start of the tournament. Or France and Switzerland. Did I say Spain? I think I did. Yeah. Because France.
You're looking ahead.
I was, yeah. Well, Spain was the other one I was going to say, so that's why. But yeah, no, I think coming into the tournament, I think I thought that France would be the clear favorites to win, just based on how talented they are in every single position. They hit some turbulence, I think, in the group stages, it's fair to say, although it was a very, very tough group. And I think Switzerland, like Chris, you were saying, they have the pieces, on Summer in goal. Shaqiri is capable of pulling a rabbit out of the hat and scoring a goal from nothing. So I think they have a couple weapons that could test France for sure. I'm not going to be brave enough to go out on a limb and say that Switzerland is going to win, but I think that could be a close game between those two teams. And then the other game that I had in mind, Croatia and Spain, I'm not actually sure who's favored in that game, but prior to the last round of group matches, I would have picked Croatia, I think, but Spain really impressed me with that last performance. They were scoring for fun, basically 5-0 win against Slovakia. I think if they can keep that going, they could pull off a surprise and make a much deeper run than I thought they could from where they were after 2 matches into the tournament.
Just to let you know, Spain is the favorite in that one.
Okay.
I think that makes sense. And actually, I would have picked the same games as you, Andrew. I think I definitely would have said definitely Croatia. But they almost, I like I said, I'm like a Luka Modric like fangirl just for years. I still think that they struggled a little bit. And I think that game is such a toss up, especially because that shellacking of Slovakia was so decisive. So I think that could be a surprise either way. It's really hard to tell. And I actually share your sense of possibility with France versus Switzerland. And I only say that because I think pretty much the other matchups are going to go the way that we think they're going to go. But considering France's performance so far has been shaky, if they have an off day, I think Switzerland could easily open them up. So yeah.
All right, Chris, what about you?
I mean, looking at the bracket, I mean, considering how they've played, would you consider Portugal a surprise potentially?
Potentially,
yeah.
Based off how they played, obviously, their track record, they're the reigning champs of the Euros and stuff like that. But
they are going up against the number 1 team in the world right now, according to FIFA rankings. So it could be a possibility of a surprise there.
All right, so we'll scratch that. I'm gonna say Wales. I think they have a realistic chance of beating Denmark, not only today, but they have a realistic chance of beating the Netherlands when they play them in the quarterfinal round, or Czech Republic, wherever they play out of that. But I think they have a realistic chance of hitting the semifinals and then running into whatever buzzsaw comes from England and Germany. So Wales, just Gareth Bale, Aaron Ramsey, that team as a whole has looked very good. And they played their best game against Italy, in my opinion.
So I agree with you on Wales, and I would almost say Wales would be a surprise. But I'm going to take it in a different round. I'm going to say Denmark could be the surprise. See, the way that they played Belgium, how tough they played Belgium. Belgium should have been able to smoke Denmark easily, right? And that was a very close game. It was a 2-1 score at the end of the day. Very close, very defensively driven by Denmark. If there's something that could work against this Wales team, is that defensive mindset. Then they played a Russia team that was heavily offensively driven, very physical, also had a very tough defense, and they managed to beat Russia 4-1. Not to say that that Belgium and Russia are the same caliber, because not by any means, but it's just that drive and that, I guess, that extra sense of motivation for Denmark to take it that much further without their main man. It's just, it would be worth it to watch. It would be one of those like Cinderella stories develops in every single one of these tournaments, right? So I think Denmark could be one of those. And the other one that I would agree with, it's actually Portugal too, because we're seeing Portugal have some struggles across with their offensive game. Diogo Jota at times hasn't been that wonderful of a performer. Bruno Fernandes hasn't been that wonderful of a performer as well, even though first game he actually was very sharp. Don't know what happened after that first game. He just kind of went into this cliff and kind of disappeared. I don't know what happened there, but you got their goalie in Rui Patricio, who's just been very, very sharp throughout this whole entire tournament. And I think he could be a key factor here against Belgium, even though Romelu Lukaku and Kevin De Bruyne are just amazing themselves. I just think Rui Patricio is going to frustrate the living lights out of these two as well.
Oh, for sure.
Because of how good he is.
I think of every time we had league matchups against Wolves, who are, half of Portugal anyway. Every time you never get like really excited about playing Wolves. It's always going to be tough no matter who your club is. They put up such a good fight, and you just transfer half of that over to the Portuguese national team. And I totally agree.
Yeah. All right. So let's dive into the last segment of this episode. Let's dive into who moves on. So let's we'll start it off. Belgium versus Portugal. Arielle, who do you see winning there?
Belgium. I'm only saying that because I'm a Kevin De Bruyne fangirl. So I'm just picking that randomly. I honestly think it could go either way. So I'm picking at will here.
All right. Chris, who do you see moving up between Belgium and Portugal?
Who do I see? Who do I want Italy to play after this?
Good way. No, it's a good way to think about it.
Yeah.
Honestly, I think I gotta wrap it the goat, man. I'm gonna go Portugal.
Italy versus Portugal would be sick.
That would be sick.
Agreed.
Andrew?
I think I have to go with Belgium. I feel more confident in the fact that there will be a lot of goals than I feel about which team will win. But I think Big Rom up top will get a clutch goal or two and help get Belgium across the line.
The word big for Romelu Lukaku is an understatement. I hate to tell you that, but it's an understatement. The guy is just, I don't know. I can't even put it into words. He's just
a legend. That's what he is.
No, he is. He really is, especially for given how young he still is. It's just insane.
You forget, I know, because it seems like he's been around forever because he's so established as, a threat on the pitch. But yeah, he's so young. I don't know. I'm a fan. Big Ron.
I mean, for me, it's the haircuts. He just ages with the haircuts.
That's one of my favorite parts of football. Yeah.
Yep. I'm actually going to go with Portugal too. I think we're expecting to see this being a high-scoring matchup, but every single time that we see two talented sides meet one another, it's really the opposite. It's a very close game, right? So I'm thinking Portugal might be able to sneak by here. All right, so let's move on to Italy versus Austria. Chris, let's get you out of the way because I know you're itching. All right. For those of you listening, Italy.
For me, it's Italy. I mean, there's no, I no offense to Austria, but I just think that they got an unlucky matchup there. So
they did. Yeah, they did. I agree with that. Italy as well. Andrew?
Yeah, Italy. They were the team that impressed me most in the group stages. So I have a hard time seeing them losing this one.
All right. Now, France versus Switzerland. Who do we see moving on? Arielle?
I honestly just think France. I mean, I think Switzerland definitely has, it could be one of those things where Switzerland surprises. I definitely think they have the power to do so, but I think France will get it together and hold on. I'm sure they've gotten a talking to after the last couple of performances. So
yeah, Didier Deschamps is known for those talkings.
I just think the sheer depth of their squad is impressive, to say the least. So I don't expect them to flame out yet.
Yeah. Andrew, what about you? France versus Switzerland?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I know I talked up Switzerland not too long ago as a potential surprise, but I just think that midfield pairing of Conte and Pogba is just on its own too much for most teams in the world.
Yeah. Chris?
I think everybody basically nailed it on the head. Wow, Jesus, dude.
It's early.
France.
All right.
Switzerland keeps it close, but France, Kylian Mbappe gets the job done for them finally.
I actually think differently. I think France, obviously, but I think N'Golo Kante is going to be the one deciding factor for France.
Yeah.
I mean, he's always the deciding factor.
Like for anybody, yeah. So
Yeah. I mean,
he's such a great player.
Yeah. Croatia versus Spain. Chris.
I'm gonna ride Croatia here. I think they're at the beginning of the tournament. They definitely missed Mario Mandzukic. Perisic and company have stepped up front. Obviously, we know how good their midfield can be and how good their back end can be. I think they do what it takes to steal this against Spain. I think Spain's still a little bit too young, in my opinion. And I think Unai Simon gives up one too many goals and Croatia wins.
Okay. Andrew?
I'm going with Spain, I think. Definitely wouldn't have said that before the last group stage game, like I said, but that game changed my mind. And I think if they can, I would not expect them to score 5 goals against Croatia, obviously, but I think if they can play in a similar way on the offensive side of things and actually put together moves in the final third, I think they have enough talent to get by Croatia.
All right, Arielle?
Yeah, I'm gonna agree with that. I think before the last game, I would have said Croatia here, but I think the energy with Spain right now is that there's a lot of younger guys and at least one new guy with a lot to prove, and they don't need 5 goals against Croatia. They just need 1 or 2. So I'm gonna go with Spain on that one.
Okay. This was a tough one because
Yeah, flip a coin.
I agree with much of what Chris said about Croatia, especially with Luka Modric being such a good factor in their game and how much he stepped up. But I think I'm actually gonna ride with Spain here. I think I was thoroughly impressed with Ferran Torres. I was also impressed with
Good choice.
You gotta put the emphasis on the name, Diego. Come on. You know how to do that.
Yeah, I said Ferran Torres.
No, you're gonna put.
I rolled the R's.
Come on, nope.
Ferran,
Roll it
yeah.
harder. Roll it harder. You gotta roll it harder.
I also like Gerard Moreno as well. He's been very sharp, and not gonna lie, I was also very impressed with Morata. He's gotten a lot of scrutiny through the media as of late, but in this past game, he was pretty good. He held his ground. He was active and he was involved in a lot of the plays that ended up being goals. So
I also just think he's an easy scapegoat. Like, so it's kind of, to me, it's kind of like a tired thing to talk about. And he deserves a little bit more respect, a lot more respect, actually.
Yeah. I think that in the midfield, if I was Luis Enrique, I think I personally would put Busquets and Thiago Alcantara at the same time on, just to give that kind of diversity in that midfield, create a dual threat that will be way too much to handle for Croatia. Because you got Luka Modric, he's your creative piece, but if you are with Thiago and Busquets kind of annihilating that game is yours at that point.
I just want to shout out Busquets too, because I feel like he'll be playing. We'll all be 40 years old, and he'll still be in there scaring people.
Sounds right.
Fan.
Yeah. I just think the thing for Spain as well is they did score when they won 5-0. They did get two goals that Slovakia put in their own net. So as much as 5-0 looks good on the score sheet, you got to look a little bit in between, and that's why I think Croatia has a little bit of the advantage coming in.
Okay. All right, so moving on to the other side of the bracket, Sweden versus Ukraine. Let's see here. Andrew, go right ahead.
I'm going to go with Sweden in this one, I think. Alexander Isak, I believe is how it's pronounced, really impressed me in group stages, specifically his performance against Slovakia, I think it was. His ability to pick up the ball and create chances on his own was really impressive, I thought. And I think he'll be the X factor that adds a little spark of something special in that game.
Okay. Arielle.
I'm going to go with Ukraine. And it's a little bit of what we were speaking about earlier, where they're just set up for a really versatile formation where I always think about, again, Alexander Zinchenko's performances for Ukraine versus Manchester City, where he plays left back for us most of the time, but he's always scoring for Ukraine. So they have all these very versatile players who can press, who can sit back. So they're an exciting team to me. I think they'll go through. I think Sweden is set up a little bit just too defensively in this matchup.
I would wholeheartedly agree with that. I do like Sweden's chances, especially with Robin Olsen, how good he's been in this Euro 2020 competition thus far. In fact, I would almost dare to say that if it wasn't for Olsen and net, Sweden wouldn't even be in this position where they are, considering the tough game that they played against Poland. But I will say that for me, it's Ukraine. I think Zinchenko has been a phenomenal factor. I think Yarmolenko has also been an incredible factor for Ukraine. And I just think where Lindelof and Larson have just been playing extremely defensive. It's almost, even though they align like a 4-4-2, it's almost like a 5-3-2 formation because Larson is such a defensive mindset. I just think that Ukraine could be devastating for Sweden in itself. I think it could end up much like the Sweden versus Poland game, 3-2. So I'm going with Ukraine. Chris?
I'm going to ride with my guy, Emil Forsberg in Sweden here. I do think that Ukraine has some talented pieces, but we've seen time and time again when Sweden plays against these teams that are not really highly regarded, sometimes they struggle a little bit like they did with Slovakia earlier on in the group stage. But when they play and they can play at their peak, we saw against Poland, they beat them 3-2. They played Spain really tough, drew with them. I think that we have a realistic chance. This is probably going to be the game that we see in extra time, but I think Sweden ends up taking it.
Okay.
Spicy.
Yeah. All right. The one game that we all been waiting for, England versus Germany. This one's hard. This is absolutely hard.
It's not because it's not coming home. Gareth Southgate is just so detrimental to this talented team. It's unreal.
Chris, go right ahead. England versus Germany. Who do you see?
It's going to be Germany, dude. Unless England can contain Kai Havertz, Leroy Sané, Gnabry, all the talent that they have up front, Timo Werner and company. There's just no way that England moves on. England has scored, I think, 3 goals, maybe, if that, the entire group stage so far. I just don't see them progressing in the right direction. They've scored two to 3 goals. They haven't given up one. They're going to give up a bunch in this game against Germany. I just think that this German team is too talented and too deep, and they're going to be poised to go for a nice long run.
But, earlier in the tournament, everyone thought the sky was falling about Germany too. So things can change very quickly.
But then again, when they played France, who it was one of the heavy favorites coming in, it was a 1-0 loss, but it was very tight between both sides. Then you play Portugal, and they absolutely dominated Portugal for the majority of that game. Portugal had their moments where they scored a couple of goals, but Germany dominated from start to finish, in my opinion. Obviously, with the letdown against Hungary, only getting the 2-2 draw and trailing for the majority of that game, you're going to think that they're going to come in hungry and they're going to want to make a statement. And this is a team you make a statement against.
All right, so Arielle, I'll give you the rebuttal on that one.
I'm just going to pick England just because I want to be allowed back into the country. So I don't want my membership in the John Stones fan club to be revoked. So I'm just going to pick them just to pick them.
All right, I like it. That great, great mindset there.
See, we're okay. We're okay with that. That's fine.
Yeah. Andrew,
I won't be allowed in the country. It's okay.
I'm torn on this one, to be honest. I could really see it going either way.
And just make the smart choice, dude. Whatever your head says, just do it. Don't second guess yourself.
I'm gonna lean with England because Pickford and Dominic Calvert-Lewin, I would love to see them.
There you go.
Both get
We
some
love
experience. Yeah, exactly. I think it could go either way, but yeah, I'm going England.
Steve,
Good man.
so I understand Chris's point on Germany too, and I agree with a lot of what he said. They're very deep and they're very forwardly minded. But I think that if Gareth Southgate can put together a good 4-4-2 formation here for against Germany and can line up the right people, England could win it. If that's not the case,
we haven't seen Gareth Southgate do that in 3 games. What makes you think he's going to do it now?
It's an opportunity to move on. Why wouldn't you? If you're gonna want to bring it home, you risk it all. There's nothing more. I've said it before, and I'll say it again. There's nothing more lethal than that person who has nothing to lose here. He has nothing to lose here. He's got a new contract coming up, especially with England.
New England.
New England, right?
The Revolution.
Yeah.
Yeah, the way that tweet was written was just hilarious. But he's got a contract coming up again. He's playing at home. You really have nothing to lose. You got the home advantage there. You just gotta be risky. And I think a 4-4-2 formation against Germany, if you have the right pieces and you actually get, I think one of the most important factors for England against Germany right now is to play Luke Shaw. You need to have that physical defensive mindset against this German team, especially when you're going up against Timo Werner and Kai Havertz. You need him to be part of your defensive scheme. I don't think Harry Maguire needs to be involved here. I do think Tyrone Mings could be a good defensive piece here. And I think that if you put Jack Grealish and finally get Jadon Sancho involved here to give opportunities for Raheem Sterling, or even if you are going to play Harry Kane, like if you give Jack Grealish and Jadon Sancho for a Sterling and Kane offensive scheme, you have chances being created. Otherwise, you're just shooting yourself in the foot. So I'm going with England here. I just hope that Gareth Southgate puts together the right pieces here.
I love being by myself. I love it. I love it. Especially when I'm right, Diego?
We'll check back next week.
Yeah, we'll check back next week. We'll arrange the funeral for you though.
We'll have a wellness check sent for everybody.
Netherlands versus Czech Republic. Who do we see moving on, Chris?
The Dutch.
All right.
They're just too talented. Czech Republic's played well so far, but the Cinderella story of the Czechs end here.
Yep. Andrew.
I agree with that. I think this is another one that has the potential to be a high scoring game because the Netherlands have lots of offensive talent, and I think Ukraine exposed a little bit that they have some defensive weaknesses in the group stage. But I think in the end, Netherlands are a deeper team, like Chris said.
Okay. Arielle?
Yeah, for me, it's the Netherlands. I think like everyone said, they're back and it's where we expect them to be. So
Yeah. And I agree with that too. I think the Netherlands are just way too good. And I've been standing on Denzel Dumfries this whole entire tournament. And I think he's the deciding factor in this game. So Netherlands for me. And last but not least, Wales versus Denmark. Arielle.
it's such a hard one because I think the Danish story so far is so good, but I don't think you should ever discount Gareth Bale or Aaron Ramsey. So I'm going to go with Wales here by just a little bit.
Okay. Andrew.
I'm going to go with Denmark in added time in this one. I don't like picking against Wales because I like them a lot, but I think Ethan Ampadu is going to be a sneaky big miss for them. He picked up the red card in the last group stage game. I think he's a big part of their defense with the back three that they've been playing. And I think if Denmark can keep riding the emotional wave that they've been on, it's going to be tough to stop that momentum.
Chris.
I think for me, it's Wales only because they haven't lost 2 straight games in all competitions since 2019. And throughout their last 16, they're 10-4-2. So for me, Denmark being the first team to reach the knockout stage after losing its first 2 games is a great story. And obviously, with everything that happened to Christian Eriksen, you would be pulling for them. But I just think this Wales team is too good right now to pass up on. I'm taking Wales here.
I'm going with Denmark myself. I think that red card that they picked up last week it's a potential letdown for them. I do agree that normally you really don't go against Daniel James, and Ramsey, and Gareth Bale, but I just think Denmark's emotional roller coaster here that they've been riding on is far overpowering for Denmark to take it out to the next step. So I do see Denmark moving on here. I think it's just gonna come down to like the final minutes. It could be a 3-2 game in the final minutes. So that's for me. But gonna wrap up the episode here. You guys got predictions, you guys got hot takes, seeing who could be the sleepers here.
We'll check back on Chris right after the whistle and all of those. We'll start a group chat right at the
Oh my god. I am so excited to see,
especially today for Italy. Italy today is the peak of where my fandom will peak in, and then I'll be riding the German coattails all the way to the finals.
So Chris on Twitter, we refer to him as Don Carleone Jones, right? Because that's what he calls himself. I just am excited to see the flurry of tweets coming at Chris for this. Like,
please,
if there is somebody, like, I was never a big fan of Twitter, but if there is somebody to really follow on Twitter, is Arielle Castillo, because she just spices it up. It's such a good spice that she just adds up on there. Must be I think if I read correctly, you're Cuban.
Yeah, my family's Cuban. Yeah,
it's that Cuban spice, man. Dude, you are in for a good one. You're in a good one.
It's just like my stream of consciousness on that platform, but yeah.
Oh, it's awesome. It's absolutely awesome. Like that. I remember a while back you sharing a story about Central Park.
Oh, probably Washington Square Park or something. Yeah, it's super chaotic right now.
Oh, that was hilarious. I couldn't stop laughing at this story. But anyways, that's it for episode 41 of the Yellow Card Podcast. You can find us on Twitter at Podcast Card. Arielle, plug in your socials where people can find you.
So I'm at Arielle, ARIELLEC on Twitter and Instagram. But if you are a fan of Manchester City, please follow at Man City US on Twitter. And if you follow us on Instagram, Facebook, any other social platform, and you're in the US, you'll see US content just for you that the rest of the world can't see. So yeah.
I love that. I love that.
I learn something new every day.
There you go.
Chris and Andrew, plug in your socials, please.
Andrew?
My Twitter is AFASC573.
All right. And Chris?
Mine is at CJones21212.
All right. So signing off for episode 41. Your host, Diego Galvis. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll see you guys all next week.
Bye.